Yes guys, welcome back. So in this video, I wanted to try and delve into the history books and answer the question, who invented football freestyle? Now, football skills have become hugely popular all over the globe, and I used to marvel at the skills of Ronaldo and Ronaldinho. But football freestyle, the sport, has become a sport in its own right. But where did it all start? Let me try and explain. So there are many ancient football games relating to freestyle, but I'm going to focus on a few that I feel are most relevant to the tricks we see today. So 2,500 years ago in ancient China, there was a game called Cuju being played. It was one of the first, if not the first, installments of football, with the word Cuju literally meaning kickball. But it was a little bit more like freestyle to play because you had to keep the ball in the air using great skill and accuracy. The ball we're not entirely sure about, but when you look into the ancient drawings and scriptures, it was likely made out of leather and stitched together. So there were two main ways of playing Cuju. The first was between two teams and a hoop was placed in the middle of the pitch, a bit like a target. And the team that got the most target shots through the hoop were the winners. The second game, a bit more like freestyle, was between 2 and 10 players. They would keep the ball in the air and the winner would be decided on who did the biggest, best tricks. And apparently, a little nugget of information for you, fouls were given for any bad passes. So you couldn't stitch your mate up. And it has been written in ancient Chinese text that Emperor Taizu of the Song Dynasty was particularly good at freestyle Cuju, demonstrating skills with his feet, his knees, his shoulders, and his head. That is just crazy. Just think about that. That is like the president or the prime minister doing freestyle. It must have been popular. Unfortunately, the game of Cuju started to decline in the Ming Dynasty. Less people were playing it, but it's extremely likely that these players were the first pioneers of football freestyle skills. And at that time, there was a game called Kemare, which is still played in Japan. Kemare, like the second installment of Cuju, was keeping the ball in the air, but it was non-competitive. There were no winners, and the sole aim was to keep the ball in the air, have fun, and develop your skills. Next up is Qinluan. I think Qinluan's had a massive influence on football freestylers over the years. It's a combination of dance, sport, and having fun. It's incredible to watch. It's like martial arts with a football. It's probably the nearest thing we've ever seen to Shaolin Soccer. It originated in Burma around 1500 years ago, and like Kemare, the focus is not on winning, but on how beautiful one plays. This is the ball they play with. It's made out of wicker and a lot smaller than a regular football. The main game of Qinluan is played in teams of 6, with one player occasionally coming into the middle to demonstrate their best tricks and flicks. The whole thing revolves around with the aim of getting a flow and movement with the ball. There are solo performances, usually performed by the females, and these involve things like tightrope walking and balancing on objects while keeping a ball in the air. It's just incredible to watch. Another sport originating in the 15th century and still played today is sepak takraw. It's a little bit like volleyball, but you use your feet, and it's also like Qinluan because a lot of the movements are acrobatic and very much martial arts like. Next up is circus influences. Two people I wanted to mention. The first is Enrico Rastelli, born in 1896 to a circus family. He learned traditional juggling techniques, but then went into football. Two main tricks that he was famous for was the around the world. He was caught, freestyle history here, on video for the first time performing this trick. He'd place the ball on his foot, go around it, and then catch it again in the early 1900s. Just amazing back in that era. And secondly, he would be able to bounce 2 balls on his head while he was performing. Just amazing. I think a trick that no one else has attempted since then. Something else about Rastelli that really caught my eye, he used to practice 12 hours a day. 12 hours a day, that is a long time. Apparently, he would take care of normal matters like eating food while he was training with a ball. Proper craftsman. And secondly, Francis Brunn. Francis Brunn, in my opinion, was the greatest juggler ever to live. He had a charisma like no other performer, mixing acrobatics, balancing all in with his juggling and freestyle skills. Watching him was just like water flowing. It was just something special. He lived in New York and Las Vegas. He traveled all around the world performing, quite often for celebrities, famous politicians and famous athletes. We progressed the story with the traditional sport of football, which obviously became hugely popular all over the globe. Brazilian players such as Pelé and Garrincha started to entertain us with their floor and ground skills in a match. But I feel that it was in 1980 when Maradona took to the pitch to warm up for Napoli, demonstrating freestyle skills for the first time on a football pitch, that things really started to change. Football performers started to emerge. Kang Sung-min was doing a lot of shows in Thailand and Asia, Rob Walters in the UK, but Mr. Wu really pushed the sport forward. He was a former footballer in Germany. He started to do tricks which took him to Las Vegas to perform. He came to London and starred in a very famous advert for T-Mobile, showing the soul juggling trick for the first time ever. In 1999, Simon Clifford published the book Play the Brazilian Way. The book outlined the game of football de salon, which was the original game of futsal. Now, the book was mostly focused on how to execute ground moves and skills for a game, but there was a section in the book all about ball juggling and skills. And I read this as a 14-year-old, and it completely changed my perception and my philosophy about learning and what was possible with the ball. Speaking of Brazil, in 2002, Alex Bellas wrote this book, Football, again about the traditional game, but there was a section purely on ball juggling. It wasn't called freestyle back then, but there was a character that he mentioned, Malene Dominguez, who was married to Ronaldo, the Brazilian one, Ronaldo Luiz Nazario de Lima, try and say that, but she was a freestyler. She had the world record for females on keeping the ball in the air. Check it out, it's a good read. The soccer schools that Simon set up had a huge impact on players all over the world, training and thinking differently about football skills. Futsal started to grow, street soccer started to grow, and of course freestyle started to grow. In 2000, Nike created the word Nike Freestyle, which later became Football Freestyle. They created a website, NikeFreestyle.com, where players could post their best tricks and skills, and a lot of their campaigns revolved around players like Edgar Davids, Ronaldo, and Ronaldinho. And in 2003, there was a big campaign called the Jogger 3, based around a futsal ball, and it was all about expressing yourself and seeing what tricks you could do in a game. With the emergence of the internet and social media, videos from freestylers were being shared all over the world. Some of the most notable were from Pelé from Sweden, Tuzani in Holland, and Skora in Poland, really taking freestyle to the next level and showing what was possible with a ball. Not long after, many competitions started to spring up. Masters of the Game held the first World Championships in Holland, and after then, big brands, specifically Red Bull, have given freestyle a huge global audience. But I feel the biggest and best competition is Super Bowl in Prague, where thousands of freestylers and thousands of freestyle fans flock to watch and see who really is the best freestyler in the world. In 2011, the World Football Freestyle Association was established, really giving football freestyle a proper home and governing body. And then brands started to emerge. The first one I wanted to mention was Monte. This was created by Edgar Davids. It was primarily a street soccer brand, but they did create this ball, which was for freestyle, and an interesting concept because it was a size 4.5. Other balls have been created. This is the Mitre Street Ball for street soccer and freestyle. A lot of the French freestylers and Japanese freestylers use this because they're good for creative and blocking tricks. And another brand for freestyle, I must admit this is my favorite, set up by Tobias, who's from Norway and one of the greatest freestylers ever to live. He created for freestyle many years ago. This is the control ball, the ball that I currently use, but they also make freestyle trainers as well, with the sole aim of making equipment better and helping athletes take on the sport to new levels. Oh, my head hurts. Done a lot of research and reading to put this video together, but it has been so much fun and I have learned a lot. I hope that you guys have too. So going back to the question, who invented freestyle? I actually don't know. I think it's been a mixture of all those influences put together. Where the sport will go from here, again, I don't know. Maybe it should be an Olympic sport. Maybe it should stay underground. Maybe let me know in the comments. Also let me know which part you thought was the best. And of course, drop us a like if you like the video. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe for more videos and hit the bell. You know what to do.